In today's society, freedom of speech is one of the most debated, protected, and valued liberties in the United States. This freedom allows people to speak their mind, advocate for their beliefs, and stand up for what they believe in. However, this liberty also rears the ugly and hurtful side of free speech, hate speech. The abuse of freedom of speech is an issue that is most commonly associated with people such as the LGBTQ community. The story of Matthew Shepard is just one of many examples in which hate speech grows into something incredibly dangerous and in some cases even deadly. You may have never heard of a little town in Wyoming called Laramie. Commonly known for its small-town charm, classic all-American vibe, and the notorious murder of Matthew Shepard. Although Matthew's death was a result of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, the bigotry surrounding the manner of torture used to kill him sparked national protests with a message of equality and safety for all LGBTQ Americans. This tragic event is just one of the many examples of how hate speech can morph into more than just a political opinion. It can become something very real, extremely dangerous, and in some cases, fatal. Today, students at Salem High School reflect on how hateful words and biases affect our society and our small communities alike. The Laramie Project, a play which addresses the politics surrounding Matthew's death, allows us to reflect on the results of spreading hatred and bigotry. The play focuses on how situations like this can be avoided by using words instead of actions and understanding one another. In this excerpt, students portray how even the way media twists stories can be just as bad as the hate speech surrounding the town.
Good community, and we are. The majority of the people here are good people.
You get bad apples once in a while, and I think that the gay community took this as an advantage. Said that this is a good time for us to exploit this.
Okay, I do think that the media helps people accountable. Because they make people think. Because people are sitting in their homes, like watching TV and listening to CNN and watching Dan Rather and going, Jesus Christ, that isn't how it is here. Well, how is it here?
Went to Laramie, Wyoming, thinking this is a big thing, this is a big issue.
In the play, there are several scenes that we did not predict today, but there are characters who have kind of like this side reference, and like one of them just talks about how being in a play about homosexuality changed him. It made me think about how while there is this one big event, there are so many different meanings and bigger meanings that it can really, you can take away other things from it and not just like the tragedy that is what happened to Shepard.
So I think if we were to like put on the whole entire production of the Laramie Project at Salem High School, then it would definitely help, because it would show what can happen to the extreme if like someone really opposed the LGBT community. Well, we have our LGBT group in school. We have our the LGBT Alliance and our awareness group, and that's a great resource for LGBT students who either don't know what is going on with themselves, if they need more clarity, or also just like share opinions and help with awareness.
Projects like the Laramie Project and what the advanced drama class did are extremely important because they give you a fertile ground around which you can build the dialogue, have a conversation. It gives you a place to start, because after that show, the clip we saw, we can go back to our classrooms and say, what did you see, what did you feel, with whom did you identify, and it gives it a safe environment. Like I really, not me personally, but a student could identify with a character in the play, and it becomes easier to talk about other people. Like I understand where that character is coming from because of my own experience, or I understand this. I definitely think things like that, keeping the topics in the dialogue, in the common conversation, are extremely important and very, very, very helpful.
I definitely feel like there's evidence of hate speech in Salem. It affects my day-to-day life somewhat. Like I don't constantly think about it, but when it does happen, I think about it for like a couple of days and then it sort of just like goes away. I just get a little more like insecure about myself when it happens.
I know we are a community that doesn't want to tolerate hate speech. I think that we're doing a decent job of staying on top of it, preventing it, keeping it to minimum. We are doing a good job, but I also believe that we can always do better. There's always more we can do. There's always stuff that's falling through the gaps. There's always people that aren't being heard. There are people that are not being heard and that we should do our best to protect, that we should protect, that we need to protect. we're trying.
Efforts like bringing the Larmy Project to schools are a step in the right direction towards minimizing hate speech and protecting LGBTQ students within our society.
Technology, once seen as a future so far away and a topic too difficult to comprehend. To quote the movie Apollo 13, imagine a day where we can store hundreds of megabytes all in one room. Today you can fit storage more than 100 times that in the palm of your hand. Technology has evolved and is still evolving. The task now is incorporating that into today's society and teaching that to today's generation. The year is 1982. Michael Jackson releases his album Thriller, to this day one of the most popular albums ever. Prince William, son of Prince Charles and Princess Diana, was born. The release of the Commodore 64 computer and the first CD player made by Sony. E.T. the movie came out in theaters, and the wrestling, gymnastics, and softball teams won state championships. And a young Mike Courtois began his teaching career at Salem High School.
Certainly we had to incorporate a lot more technology than we used to have to because, back when I first started, we had film strips and the reel-to-reel movies. I would never have dreamed 30 years ago that I'd be using a smartboard, what was a PowerPoint? What was even having a laptop computer, which is, it just doesn't exist. Yeah. So a lot of that's changed. And I think it's come with technology. I think that it's easier to be by yourself doing things on your own, whereas before you had to be in a social circle, in a social group. So I think that's what's happened. And the culture, I think, has become much more insulated, is much more individual, because a person can exist kind of within the world on their phone, as opposed to having to go where it's happening, where all the action is. They can bring the action to them with their phone. So it seems that's my observation, anyways.
Yeah. I think as it relates to technology, I think student behavior has gotten easier to manage with technology. There's a double-edged sword there because we have the technology which makes a lot of work more convenient and accessible to students. Yet with technology in the classroom, there are other temptations that make it difficult for students to focus. It's very easy for them to get distracted and go off track from the curriculum when they have technology at their disposal. So we just try to encourage the use of technology and try to get students to stay on task and focus on their work and use technology as a resource for completing their work.
That if we don't bring it into the classroom experience, I think it becomes much more artificial and a lot less accessible. And I'm not saying I'm the most technological, because I'm certainly not. There are some people in the building who are fantastic with a lot of that stuff, and I'm still finding my way. Good question. I think people in my generation, people who have been teaching quite a while, had to learn the technology. The younger teachers, the teachers who grew up with technology, I think have a much easier time infusing that into what they do. Whereas those of us who didn't grow up with that and have had to learn as we go, have a bit more of a difficult time. It's not natural. Yeah. It's maybe a bit more forced for us, I think. Yeah. It is for me.
Well, my teaching uses technology. My teaching is all about technology because I teach technology. So I leverage technology very heavily in my classrooms, from online curriculums to online student portfolios to automated forms and testing devices.
Students are always students. Students have always been good students. There have always been students who took the low road, and students took the high road. There's always been that.
Starting to teach in general kind of fell into my lap. I was doing some other work, and I had worked in technology previously, and somebody asked me if I was interested in teaching a class.
What's your initial impression of Salem High School?
Fantastic. Salem High School is going to be absolutely gorgeous once they finish all the construction. It's a great school, great culture, great students, and a fantastic place to work.
For many young individuals, bullying can often be one of the most difficult challenges they must overcome. Lucky for them, physical and verbal harassment is something that often doesn't go unnoticed for long. When seen by a teacher or a peer, the situation can be reported and resolved. However, in an age controlled by technology, bullying is not as always obvious as one would like to think. Students turn to the internet as a way to express how they feel about their peers, typically in a hurtful or abusive manner.
Cyberbullying is
harassment,
hurtful,
cowardly,
hateful,
disrespectful,
abuse.
I think cyberbullying is actually a lot more prevalent now than, bullying that occurs face to face, because people can be anonymous. I think also have a little bit more courage to say things that are, maybe they wouldn't normally say to someone's face. But I think a lot of times has to do with frustration, anger, some sort of revenge, sometimes a need for attention. Maybe they think they can get a laugh from others or look cool to maybe one group if they demean somebody else.
I got cyberbullied back in junior year, and it happened because one of my friends found out some things about me, and he decided to message me some hateful words, some threats, and it made me not want to go to school.
Often adolescents feel like they have a lot more to lose. You have to come to school every day and be faced with all your peers around you.
I didn't want to encounter him whatsoever. It made me very emotional. It made me depressed. It made me it hurt. It really did to know that I got called these names.
Somebody decided to start a rumor that I was transgender, and then they were claiming that I was their boyfriend and my name was Randy. And they were saying that I was born a man, and they kept harassing me and sending me messages and telling my boyfriend that I was a man. And yeah, it was very annoying, and I was kind of scared because I had no idea who it was and I never figured out who it was.
So I think that, if someone's angry, and they can do it very quickly without thinking, and a click of the button, and be very hurtful to somebody.
For many decades, listening to music on the go has been a normal thing for most Americans. It's most commonly found in most modern-day schools. Many students listen to music throughout their day while getting to class or while studying. Many people believe that listening to music while working is beneficial to the student. But the question is, do you?
Contrary to popular belief, millennials are not the first generation to listen to music to help maintain concentration in school. Let's go back to 1979, when the very first Walkman was released by the Sony Corporation, then later followed by the Discman, and then later from Apple, the iPod. This was the first time people really had the ability to bring their music with them whenever they wanted. Of course, over the years, that has changed. People can now listen to much more than just one set list of music. They can listen to whatever they want, whenever they want. In almost all high schools, many people listen to music while they're carrying out a task, doing homework, studying, really anything. Many students argue that background music helps them to focus better while in class or working on homework. Although, many teachers question why students listen to music to stay on task. We asked students if they listen to music to stay on task and stay focused while working in class.
Listening to music helps me concentrate on my work more, and it helps me get everything done faster.
I'd rather listen to music than having regular background noise, because it helps me just focus more. And whenever a teacher just talks, I'll just have one headphone out so I can still have music on the other ear, and it's more relaxing listening to music.
I listen to music while I work because it helps me concentrate and remember what I'm studying.
In order to get a more professional opinion, we sat down with Jared Cassidy, the Director of Performing Arts for the Salem School District. So why don't you tell me a little bit about how you got your start in music education?
Absolutely. So I actually started my music education here in Salem, actually, and I decided I wanted to be a high school band director when I started playing in band at the high school level, Mr. Clausen. And as I developed those skills or whatnot, I decided to major in music education at the college level, and yeah, I just became a teacher in Windham, and I've been teaching for the past 13 years. I've been an administrator for the past 5, if you will, of those, and it's been a really, really great experience.
And I'm aware that not too long ago you received a Grammy?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there was a Grammy Music Educator Award given by the Recording Academy and the Grammy Foundation, which is really cool, out of 7,000 people across the nation.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yep.
What an accomplishment.
Thank you.
So what we're wondering today is, Do you think that listening to music while studying can actually positively affect a student?
I do. I think that, especially for individual students that have certain needs or certain ways to focus, it's going to enable them the opportunity to really have that background noise in the sense of not just noise, but it really does focus. I think it's something to do with the way the music is being performed. There's always a question. For me personally, it's hard as a musician listening to music in the background to focus just because I listen to the music for a lot of probably other things that other people that don't major in music or don't have a big musical background listen for. So I think for me personally, it can be a little bit of a distraction, but I can see in the context of high school students as they're studying, it's something that enables them to really focus in terms of those pitches, those sounds. And think about classical music versus popular music, I don't think it necessarily matters per se. When it comes to classical music, there's a lot of patterns and there's a lot of tone qualities, if you will, that really enable students to kind of focus beyond what they're listening to, which is really interesting.
Absolutely. I've heard in like a recent study that students that listen to music that don't have any lyrics focus more like with like an instrumental or a classical because it distracts one side of your brain while the other side is focused on the work that you're actually doing.
100%, and that's why you think about the Mozart effect and things like that. When you have these babies listening to classical music, there's not any words or lyrics that go along with that, but it's really those tones and those pitches, those patterns that are developed from that music. When you add lyrics to it, it creates, again, like you're saying, that other side of what are you listening to, you're considering what the lyrics are saying, and then that can actually add an extra layer of distraction or completely distract away from what you're doing.
A majority of people, according to the segment, believe that listening to music while studying or doing classwork is beneficial. But do you think it is?
With the technology students have available to them today, it's easier for them to be distracted by their surroundings than the previous generations. We sat down with some teachers and students discussing their own point of view on the problems of using phones and the ability to pay attention during the school day.
I'm Mr. Ariel. I teach art here at Salem High. This is my 21st year teaching at the high school. And over the past couple of years, I've kind of become the digital guy, if you want. Right now I'm teaching Photo 1, Photo 2, Design 1, Design 2, and Commercial Art. I have taught everything in this building, but right now I'm teaching all the digital stuff. I'm very strict. The children all hate the fact that they can't speak in my class. There's no fun. There's no jokes. It's very serious. Or it could be completely the opposite. I'd like to have the students feel like it's a really comfortable place for them to be. I'd like them to try to be themselves, but also to get the most out of the experience that they can. When we finally get my new space, it'll probably try to return to what it used to be with the atmosphere that I like to set, which is kind of relaxed, lots of lamps and quiet music maybe playing so people feel comfortable and a easy workspace kind of thing. But I always do think that I'm there for the kids no matter what. I hope they feel that way too. Phones. There's a one-word answer. We've got to do something about it. I mean, I've tried to incorporate the phones now into things like playing Kahoots and doing some research, things like that. But kids are just on their phones too much, doing too many crazy things, and it's very distracting to them and to me. So, yeah, if we could change one thing, it would be, got to come up with at least some kind of concrete no phone policy or something so that we could get at least a lot of that distraction out of the way.
My name's Ryan Morelli and I'm a senior. I would probably say like my phone and also just like things that are happening outside of school. The thing that like gets me the most frustrated is when they email your parent but like they don't tell you like what is the problem first. So like they'll do it like the first few days that it kind of starts, and then after that they just like completely lose hope that like you're listening to them at all. And then they just like start emailing your parent about it, and your parent, like, that's all they talk to you about every day. Every single time they see you, they just start like yelling at you, and it's like brutal. I don't even get it.
What would you say is your teaching style?
I would say my teaching style is very student-centered and focusing on student interests and student needs and kind of developing lesson plans and instructional strategies to meet individual needs.
What do you have to do to get everyone's attention?
This can be a challenge, but I think day to day I'll try different activities, maybe focusing on something that takes 15 to 20 minutes and then changing gears and trying something totally new so that we're kind of mixing up the activities so that it's not one thing for 90 minutes.
Thank you for letting us interview you.